Oh, there's Chris.
Give Chris a second. I knew he was coming. He was there this morning. So.
Doesn't surprise me.
There he is.
We're going to dock your pay.
This is
I was trying to cover for you.
Sorry, I was at the barber.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 19th, 7 o'clock council meeting. If you can please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to move into public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. So if there's anyone who wishes to be heard, you can please just come on up to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Steve Harvey. I live at 25 Fieldstone Drive in Rocky Hill. I've been in town for 24 years. I moved to Rocky Hill because I love this place. I'm here, and I was at the Public Safety Committee just recently, so some of you people may be hearing this for the second time. Gabe and I were kind of anointed by our neighborhood, which is mostly here, to speak. And I'm going to try to keep it under 2 minutes, but we're here for a couple of reasons. One is we're fearful for our safety in our neighborhood. People are scared, they're nervous, they're mad, and they're really freaking angry, okay? Gabe was going to talk about what happened to him and his family recently, but, you know, I've talked to a lot of people in town. One neighbor to the left, their daughter who lives around the corner, car stolen. Neighbor across the other side, son, car stolen. Don used to be the mayor. 2 weeks ago, people in his backyard, has to yell at them to leave, okay? This is just in our little stretch. And and they can be on 91 like that. We talked with the police chief, and we understand that. We also understand that the laws right now, and this is what everybody's so angry about, are favorable to the criminals, not to law-abiding citizens that are paying our taxes, okay? And it's annoying all of us because, as we found out earlier, the police can't chase them. They can't conduct blocks, okay? Although they have increased the amount of traffic stops, the chief believes that's going to lower the crime rate a little bit. That's extremely helpful. And we also know that you guys have given them 2 new police officers, police car, and some other stuff, okay? The solution is obviously to change the laws. And as we spoke with Lisa, that takes a long time. The people in this room, honestly, excuse my language, we don't give a damn, okay, about getting the laws changed long term. Because when a house gets broken into, again, this Saturday, in the afternoon, in the middle of the day, okay, that's not going to save anybody. And what's going to happen is somebody in this town is going to get hurt or killed. And we're really upset about it. I'll end with, I lived in East Hartford. I moved to Rocky Hill because I wanted to be safe, okay? We were violated and robbed when we lived in East Hartford, and it took us months, okay, to even feel comfortable walking into our own house, okay? So if you haven't been affected by it, or if you're not out talking to the people and to the community, please do so, because people here know other people, and I'm surprised there's not more people here tonight, quite honestly, but there's a sense there's something wrong in town. And, you know, one of the suggestions that we had as a group was that, and Lisa responded to it, and hopefully you'll address it later, as the police chiefs have gotten together and trying to go into the state to say you can't, you can't enact these laws, how about we get all of the local towns to form a quorum or something and go to the governor again. I know you went back in January, but go back again and stress that we're getting tired of this. And you know what's going to happen? People are going to start taking things into their own hands if nothing else happens. And we don't want that. Thank you for your time and courtesy. I appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gabe Cabrera, and I live at 41 Fieldstone Drive in Rocky Hill. I am here today with my fellow neighbors Most of the folks you see in this room either live on Fieldstone Drive or Woodfield Crossing, and we're here because we're concerned. I personally have lived in Rocky Hill since 1981. I'm a big fan of Rocky Hill. I think Rocky Hill is a tremendous community. It's a tremendous place to raise a family, to feel safe, and to enjoy life. But over the past 40 years, I've noticed some changes, especially recently. Things have changed, and they're not the same. Twice this year, my family have been victims of what I would call a home invasion. First, it happened to us on January 18th, Martin Luther King Day. On the 18th, thieves entered our garage in the middle of the day, 2:30 in the afternoon. My wife and I were home watching a UConn game, if you can imagine. Garage doors were open because we live in a neighborhood where garage doors can be open. We never had these problems. We never had these thugs patrolling our streets, looking to steal from us. So the garage doors were open. They came in and they helped themselves. They stole a new car. They took my wife's new Volvo. Called the Rocky Hill Police Department. They responded. They provided excellent service. You know, what's disconcerting about this experience is that it happened in the middle of the day, and it happened when we were home. I always thought, and my wife has always been after me, to lock the cars up, you know, make sure you don't leave things outside. And I was always under the impression that these crimes happened at night, you know, between midnight and daybreak. But these things are happening now in the middle of the afternoon, when you have kids playing in the streets, you have neighbors mowing their lawns, others washing their cars, others just walking to exercise. And these thugs have become so brazen that there's no stopping them. They'll pop in and do whatever they want. And quite frankly, as a citizen and a taxpayer of this town, this is unacceptable. I know that Rocky Hill didn't do anything to create this problem. We're victims. And as Steve alluded to, the fact that our location is so close to I-91 doesn't help us. So we didn't create the problem. But we as a community need to come together and do something about the problem. You know, when it happened to me on January 18th, I kind of blew it off. I kind of said, yeah, kids looking for a joyride. You know, they stole the car, they dumped it in Hartford, we got the car back. You know, the car wasn't damaged, primarily due to the fact that they had a very intelligent anti-theft system, so they dumped it. So I kind of blew it off and I said, that's once in a lifetime. It's not going to happen again. I can't tell you how wrong I was. June 26th, Saturday afternoon, a Saturday afternoon, white car comes down Fieldstone Drive, just looking to find something to steal, someone to hurt. Chose my house again. You know, I can't win the lottery once, but I won it twice with these idiots. You know, came back. Now, middle of the afternoon, I had installed a Ring camera because of the first instance, so we had the whole thing on film, which we provided to the Rocky Hill Police Department. But what's really disconcerting for me personally about this experience is that now I'm able to put a face, you know, behind the perpetrators. Now I can see what these people look like. And I can tell you, these are no kids. These are thugs. They're criminals. You can call them anything you want. But I can tell you one thing. They're out to do no good. They're out to steal from you. And if you let them and you corner them, they're going to kill you. And it's going to happen in Rocky Hill. Sooner or later, it's going to happen in Rocky Hill. And as concerned citizens, we're trying to avoid it. We're trying to come together as a voice. A street come together to try to find some solutions. And I can tell you that for me, this is more than just a robbery. This is now what I would call a personal safety issue. You know, I have two grandsons, ages 7 and 4, that for whatever reason love to come to grandma's house and play. So they're over all the time. We live in a cul-de-sac. I've always felt extremely safe in letting them play in the cul-de-sac or play in either my back or front yard, because I knew that it was a safe environment. I knew my neighbors always looked out for me. So this incident on June 26 really shook me from the standpoint that my grandsons had left my house 15 minutes before these perpetrators decided to pay a second visit. And I'm not sure that they were the same people. They probably weren't. But, you know, I'm not sure what the outcome would have been if my grandsons had entered the garage, as they often do, looking for a baseball bat or a soccer ball or any kind of a toy to play with, and ran into these delinquents. That frightens me. And I think it frightens most of the people in this room. I think it frightens them to death. Some people in this room are grandparents, some are not. I now look over my shoulder in anything I do around my house, because I don't know who or what is lurking out there looking to harm me. So I can tell you, if someone steals my car, I can go out tomorrow and buy another car. Yeah, it's a huge inconvenience. Excuse my French, huge pain in the ass, because I have to go out, file an insurance claim, settle an insurance claim, and find a car that I can buy. But you know what? I can do that. But you know what I can't do? I cannot replace the lives of my grandsons, my wife, my friends, and my neighbors. Now, what's going to happen in Rocky Hill, and you mark my words, what's going to happen in Rocky Hill, one of these law-abiding citizens is going to be out in the yard doing whatever they routinely do, which is their right, and they're going to walk into some jerks in their garage or their house trying to steal from them. And what's going to happen is, depending on the reaction, someone is going to get shot. Someone is going to get seriously hurt, and someone may lose their lives. Again, that's unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to each one of you, and it's certainly unacceptable to me. As a town, and I know we talked a little bit about this during the Public Safety Committee meeting, you're putting pressure on the governor, writing letters and talking to the state legislators, and inquiring as to getting more protection and getting the laws changed. Hopefully, you know, we can continue with those efforts. But frankly, I can tell you that I didn't move to Rocky Hill 40 years ago to live in a constant state of fear. Okay? If I wanted to live in a constant state of fear, I would have chosen New York City or Hartford. You know, I don't appreciate going outside and having to look over my shoulder. I don't appreciate having to lock my doors during the day. I don't appreciate looking and observing every car that comes down my street. It's a time for change, folks. You know, this is not a political issue, and I'm not making it one, but this is an election year. And if the people in office don't care enough to change the laws to protect their citizens, then it's up to us to vote them out and get people in that care and can make a difference. I'll get off my soapbox, and I'll tell you that I am one concerned citizen. I'm not a happy citizen. I think you got bigger problems than you think. And I'll tell you something else. This is the type of thing that you think will never happen to you until it does, and then it'll change your perspective.
Anyone else?
I invite my neighbors, if you want to speak, now's the time to say something.
Hi, I'm Mike Scribano. I live at 36 Fieldstone Drive. And what has been said so far is everyone feels the same way. And the notion that you can look on your phone and have a picture that they've sent of two thugs going into a garage is shocking. And to see the little kids playing in the yard makes, we all think the same thing. What's really shocking is we're seeing these cars patrolling up and down our street a couple times a week. I take pictures every time I see one. You know, they stand out. They have the mag wheels. They have the tinted windows. You know, why are they just going up and down our street, parked on the side of the street? You know, well, we are under this cloud, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I'm going to be getting cameras. We're going to be getting cameras. What's next? We all have to get guns and hope for the best. This is really tragic. It is. It really is. And we really need some change. We need some more police. You know, one question I have is, after the second occurrence, you've got pictures of two thugs in broad daylight from a car going into his garage. Where were the police? Why didn't the police come door to door and say, you know, this is what happened. This is what you need to be thinking to protect yourself. This is what the town of Rocky Hill can do to help you out. We never got that. At least I'm not aware of it. You know, it's like, okay, we're just going to ignore this situation, and it can't be ignored, because if it's not happening in our neighborhood, it's happening in the next neighborhood over next door, around the corner. And we need a change. We need something to happen. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Joyce. I happen to live right on the corner of the cul-de-sac on 34 Woodfield Crossing. I don't think, like Gabe said, I don't think it's overly ever concerned me, because I can get another car, I can get another wallet. But, you know, the instances for me have been more frequent than anybody actually knows. It's happened to me like 3 or 4 times. I remember our golden retriever was barking at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling her to shut up. I open the door, she shoots down, and there's 2 gentlemen sitting in my car, of which I don't think I should confront them. I don't think it'd be the prudent thing to do, so I called the police. But obviously, these crimes are going unpunished, because there was another time, I think like 5 weeks ago, my daughter sleeps downstairs, she's 20, and she goes, "Dad, somebody's walking by the door." And I just simply said, "Just stay still. Don't even move. Just let it go." My son, his car was broken into maybe about 3 months ago. So it's becoming commonplace. What can we do about it? I don't know. The crimes are unpunished. Maybe we could step up security within. I never locked my cars before. I even go out to the pool. I have grandchildren now, which is a concern, because I go out to the pool. They may want to go inside for a while. I have to go around the front. I've got to lock the front door. I've got to close the garage. And like you said, I feel like I should be living in New York City like I used to. But I've enjoyed the 24 years here. It's been a very comfortable environment. It's been a great place to raise kids. We now have 2 grandchildren. It just seems to be so commonplace at this point. I mean, the protocol in our house is don't confront. People say the urge, you should get a firearm. But I don't want to do that at this point in my life. I don't see how I should have to. I don't want to confront somebody. I think the obvious thing you don't realize is if you do that, you better be prepared to use it, and that would not be me. But I'm here as an ear because I'd like to hear something can be done about this, only because I now have a second family in my house that I'm working with, and it's, losing a car, that's fine. Doesn't bother me at all. But if a young one's going to get cornered or something like that, and it could be very unfortunate, that would be a horrible thing. But I just wanted to voice my opinion.
Hi, my name is Nadine Cabrera. I'm the other half of Gabe Cabrera, and it was my car that's the hot car, I guess. Volvo. You never knew that, did you? Volvo SUV is a very, very desirable car. Well, anyways, that's a joke. That's not a good joke. But anyways, I'm here because I realize the biggest changes have to be made up at the Capitol. Okay, and this is not exactly the place, but I also know that some of the other towns have stepped up, and I didn't go to the public safety meeting, so I'm not sure, because I heard a couple things maybe are occurring already. But what I'm trying to bring up is I'd like to know that we're doing something similar to what Glastonbury has done. I think Glastonbury has had the problem before us, or they've had a bigger problem than us. So they've gotten together, they've done some things, they've gotten a letter out to the governor through the town manager, but they've also set up a special unit within their police department that is supposed, not specifically only, but that is supposed to be addressing the car theft problem in Glastonbury. And I know Manchester is doing a similar thing, at least they were planning on doing it, because they also had quite a bit of publicity on that. And I was just wondering if Rocky Hill has any intent on doing something similar. And maybe they are doing it already, but I haven't heard that. And that's really all I have to say. Okay?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Virginia Harvey. I'm on 16 Harvest Lane. I thought I'd come up here. I had no intention, but I felt inspired by everybody here who primarily live on Woodfield and Fieldstone. And I just wanted to give the representation from the other side of town. I have personally not have been affected quite yet, thankfully. However, I do have neighbors that they had their car broken into about a year ago now. So I guess this is going on a little bit longer than I was aware of. And just hearing all the stories tonight, I really felt I had to come up and just give you my perspective also. I've moved here 4 years ago. I came from West Haven, and we wanted to have a nice place for our daughter to live and go to some great schools. She's 10 years old. And I'm a little concerned and nervous to have her outside. She loves to be outdoors. And hearing all the stories tonight make me fearful of allowing her to do that. And she's finally at the age I can give her a little space to do that sort of thing. So, just to voice my opinion, and you can hear another perspective. This is definitely something I do hope that our town can address and, make those efforts go forth and maybe bring it up, on that Capitol level. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Don't be scared. No? Okay. I'm going to make a motion at this point because let me preface why. Typically, we never have anyone come to a council meeting. So we did hold something a few months ago where we had the public come in and we talked specifically about public safety. The police chief talked about initiatives that he did, and we talked about initiatives at the state level, and then we talked about grassroots initiatives. But basically, during public comment, we only hear your comments and we're not allowed to respond. But given the unusual circumstance, I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the normal rules so that we can engage.
Madam Mayor, motion to suspend the normal rules.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it looks like everyone has agreed. So, first of all, I want to say thank you all for coming out this evening. I understand your frustration. This is something that we have been tackling at the municipal level for well over a year. We have spent many, many hours speaking with lawmakers, meeting with different groups, meeting with neighbors such as yourself, and trying to determine what is in our best interests moving forward. Is police chief still out there? Is that okay? Because I don't have my glasses, but I think that I see his figure out there. If you don't mind, Chief, I'm going to call you up in a couple of minutes to kind of just reiterate some of those initiatives that you've done, because At the municipal level, the chief has really gone out and done a number of things, including creating a task force and joining collaboration with Hartford to specifically investigate these types of crimes. We have things from a tip line and so on and so forth, but I'm going to allow him to speak to that. I'm going to give you a little idea of what we've been doing. Several months ago, I think it was January perhaps, I began working with different towns and working with different mayors and coming up with ideas of how can we actually get the ear of lawmakers, because we knew that they were about to go into session. And so we determined that we really weren't getting too far. We were getting a lot of pushback. A lot of what I heard, and now granted, I was meeting with prosecutors, I was meeting with public defenders, I was meeting with child advocates, I was meeting with victims and mayors of other towns. And this is a statewide issue. It's not contained here, unfortunately, to Rocky Hill. And what we were hearing from the majority of lawmakers was, this is an anomaly. What you're seeing with windows getting smashed in, that's just, maybe that's COVID related. Or you don't have the data, you don't have the facts to show that these are juveniles. And we couldn't really catch anyone's ear. So we said, all right, let's reach out to the governor, because maybe the governor, if he makes this his priority, then the lawmakers will follow suit. So a number of municipalities got together, and I actually had a big part in drafting that resolution, presented it to a number of other municipalities who, like Rocky Hill, passed a resolution. We sent that up to the governor, and we said, look, we need help, because specifically, we are not going to wait until somebody gets hurt before we take action. Well, the legislative session came and went. We did get one law out of it, and I'll tell you what that is. It's Public Act 21-33, which, among other issues, includes provisions establishing the crime of enticing a juvenile to commit a criminal act. And the legislature, was prompted by concerns that adults were using juveniles to perpetrate these car break-ins, and that they were not likely to face any serious charges as juveniles. So that's one good thing that came out, and also that they're going to begin to do some studies. Now, is that enough? It's not enough. So again, we have been contacting lawmakers. I'm trying to reach out again to ranking members of the judiciary, of public safety, and I can tell you that there is a bipartisan group, a very small group, but nevertheless a bipartisan group of lawmakers who is meeting presently, going out and talking to different stakeholders. I just reached out today when I found out who they were, and I'm trying to be a part of one of those meetings. And to be honest with you, I would like to take some members of the public with me. And so if I get a chance to take part in those meetings, I'm certainly going to reach out to different people who have come here and express their concerns, because I think at this point that lawmakers need to hear from the constituents, and hopefully we can get somewhere from there. Another thing I want to tell you is that according to some testimony provided by the Connecticut's Division of Criminal Justice earlier this year, the reports the division has reviewed suggest the real issue is the repeat serious juvenile offender, meaning that it's not so much an increase in the number of juveniles committing crimes, rather an increase in the number of crimes committed by a small fraction of the juvenile offenders. And so I think that's something we're going to continue to hear repeatedly, which is why it is important that we have some laws that are changed up at the state capitol. And so what this group of legislators, is looking at, they're considering legislation two-pronged. One, to eliminate the current 6-hour limit on detaining certain juveniles without a court order, and two, to require repeat offenders to be electronically monitored until their criminal proceedings are resolved. So those are the types of things that this bipartisan group is looking to push, to study, to see if this is something that the full legislature will take up and adopt. And then finally, something that I know that we don't like to hear, but it certainly is important to reiterate. You know, car break-ins and thefts can be prevented to some extent. And like Rocky Hill, a number of municipalities are engaging in social media campaigns like we did in August with the Lock It or Lose It, because people do leave their cars open, they do leave their garages open, they do leave valuables in their car. And unfortunately, we don't live in the type of society where we can do that anymore. And until we have some other types of measures in place where these crimes are not as rampant, we really do need to be vigilant about keeping our doors locked and our key fobs out of there, the valuables out of the cars, and the garage door closed. You know, unfortunately, there are growing concerns that, you know, even with these incidents, however, that the juveniles are when they're taking stuff out of their cars, those things are escalating into breaking of windows, the stealing of cars, and of now, of course, using firearms. So I recognize your frustration. I'm going to call the chief up, if the council doesn't mind, first, just to give you an idea of what he's been working on, and then we'll go to the council. Thank you. And just one more thing. There is a meeting in Glastonbury, and I'm going to have to ask you again, John. Is it Tuesday?
Thursday. 22nd at 6:30.
Okay. So at Glastonbury Town Hall, if anyone is interested,
No, it's at their community center, Riverfront.
Okay, so it's Thursday
On Wells Street.
Okay, so if you got that information, Glastonbury is inviting anyone who wants to attend, just so that we can really get more initiative behind this. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, and thank you, Mayor. First of all, welcome, folks. Thank you for coming tonight, and I appreciate your concern on this matter. We covered a lot of ground in the Public Safety Committee meeting earlier, so at the risk of being redundant, I'm going to try to highlight and encapsulate some of the things we talked about. I made some notes here, and I'm going to bleed my body here, so I'm kind of like talking to all of you. But first of all, I want you to understand, we understand your concern. We understand your pain. We understand your fear. The frustration level in us right now, I've been doing this for 40 years. It's never been a more difficult and challenging environment in law enforcement than it is right now. And it's really been a challenge for all of us. There's been a lot of restrictions that have been placed on us through state statute, through the Police Reform Act, which is really an offshoot of the whole George Floyd incident. And there's some good and bad in that. And, you know, we've seen the defund the police kind of movement. It kind of further highlights some restrictions on police activity, some of it warranted, some of it maybe not. I'm not going to get into the politics, but that's the reality of it, and that's what we're dealing with. So we're trying as a police force, as a police community, to deal with that. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you my professional opinion. I think that has created some of the mayhem that we're experiencing. All right, and you hit it so succinctly, and you hit it on the head. The small percentage of individuals we're talking about here are not the majority of juveniles in Connecticut and your typical high school kid. Thank God, right? Because we all did stupid things at that age, including myself. No, we're talking a small percentage of repeat offenders who are hardcore, who really don't have any regard for life, including their own. Some of the things they'll do to escape the police, they put their own life at risk. They don't seem to care. So it's been a challenge for all of us. We've been dealing with this as a town, we've been dealing with this as a department for well over a year, maybe closer to a year and a half. And we've been ahead of the curve. And I want you to know your town has been ahead of the curve. There's a number of things that we started that you're seeing now, maybe like mentioned in Glastonbury, with the forming of neighboring departments and sharing intelligence. We've been doing that for a while. So our intelligence gathering has increased significantly with the Mid-State and Central Connecticut Police Departments. We have an officer embedded in the Hartford Auto Theft Unit. All right, most of these characters are coming from Hartford. They're coming from the city, not all, but most of them. It's produced a wealth of information. But that information is only so helpful and useful when an arrest is made if nothing happens on the judicial end. And that's part of the challenges and frustrations we're seeing right now. That's been the conversations I've been having with our elected officials. Police Accountability Act aside, we'll live with it, okay? Let's clean up what's going on in the courts. Let's clean up some of the laws pertaining to consequences for some of these acts. So in addition to enhancing our intelligence and working with the Hartford Police, we've increased our staffing levels here in Rocky Hill. It's been done by a combination of reassigning people back to patrol to increase the number of officers on the street. Hopefully you've seen a difference. You've seen a little bit more visibility. I came to the council during the last budget, asked for 2 additional officers. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but 2, we can do a lot with 2. We're a small force. 2 makes a big difference. They were gracious enough to award us those 2 officers. They hopefully will be online by the end of September, so you should see even more visibility. It is a priority for me, and we will stick with it. We've increased our motor vehicle stops. Last month we had almost 200 alone, and I do firmly believe that a high police presence with the possibility of, and you may have been stopped yourself, I don't know, does act as a deterrent. So we're creating what we hope is an omnipresence that sends a message to these clowns coming through town that you want to come into Rocky Hill, residents are going to be watching, the police are going to be out there, and we're going to be active. And hopefully that steers them away, I hate to say it, but probably into another town. But at least it's not our town, right? It's the sheep effect, right? We're just moving the herd, all right? So staffing levels have been enhanced, the intelligence gathering. We are one of the only few agencies in the state that are doing DNA tests on cars that are stolen. So if a car is stolen in Rocky Hill, when it's reported to us and we enter it into our national database system, it's clearly marked and flagged. When that car is recovered, hold for DNA imprints. And we send our detectives up there to draw DNA samples. And we're getting them, okay? But we're finding the majority of them are not getting hits. And we suspect it's because they're juveniles. And there's limitations on obtaining DNA from juveniles. So one of the things that we are spearheading with our state representatives, you got to open up the juvenile laws. Everything is confidential. Everything is secret. You can't do this. You got to open it up for those hardcore repeat offenders. Allow us to get DNA, get them into the database. We have one case where we're getting similar DNA in 30-something cases. We suspect it's the same individual, but he hasn't been put into the database yet. And once you have that, you got the potential to clear many cases and make arrests, all right? And then now it's the court's job to do something with them. So we are taking that extra step. And we have trained our patrol officers how to take those DNA swabs as well. We created a tip line as the mayor had mentioned, and we've had extensive conversation with our state reps. It's going to be a slow process, and I think one of the representatives said it succinctly. He said, you know, we're going to attack this juvenile justice reform, and that's really, I think, what we need to be focused on, more like with a scalpel than a sledgehammer. So we're just going to try for small victories, one at a time. And, you know, that DNA database would be one. Mayor mentioned increasing the 6-hour hold. We have no access to juvenile records. We get if we apprehend one of these kids, there's no record history. So we don't know if this is a first-time offender or it was like the New Britain case, the 13th offense, and on number 13 he killed somebody. We recently learned that when warrants and take into custody orders are brought to judges, they don't even have access to databases on juveniles. So how can they make an educated decision? It's horrible. It's just, there's a lot of reform that has to take place. These are all the things we're pushing for. The Capital Region chiefs, the statewide level of chiefs, we have our own lobby. We're working with our reps up in Hartford. We're doing what we can. It's just going to be a slow process. Again, I understand your concern. This is still a wonderful town. This is still a wonderful community, and we have a lot going for us. And I get it. We just don't like what's going on, and I don't like it either. And I'm hopeful through all these efforts that the pendulum will start to move a little bit back to where it was. In the interim, I'm going to just repeat what the mayor said. Please help us by doing your part. I know it requires a change of behavior. Lock your doors. We're still getting a lot of reported larcenies from cars where the cars were unlocked. People are still leaving or maybe forgetting valuables in the car. I know closing the garage doors is a tough one, but you know, I'm doing it, and I'm locking both of my personal vehicles in my garage. I've had to make that adjustment. It will help us, okay? And then most importantly, get on the horn, telephone. When you see something suspicious, whether it be a vehicle or a person, please call us. We don't mind if you call. We much rather go out there and find out that it's nothing, or even if they've left before our arrival, we'll saturate the area. We much rather do that than have something happen and you were afraid to not call because you felt you were bothering the police, okay? And I'll tell you a little secret. I've been doing this a long time. You call enough, they're going to get it, and they're going to just start saturating your area anyways, okay? So the squeaky wheel does get the grease. Just be mindful that the wheel is squeaking all over town. And it's not just our town, it's in every community, okay? The last thing I want to say is you seem pretty well coordinated, and I guess the credit goes to Mr. Harvey and Mr. Cabrera. Have you reached out to Sergeant Morgan of the Rocky Hill Police Department by any chance? Okay. Yes, I would. So a lot of times we get asked about neighborhood watch programs. You really effectively have already started one in your own street. We don't sponsor and run a neighborhood watch like in the old days, but what we do is we meet with neighborhoods and we teach you and give you the tools to create one that you can run on your own in conjunction with us. And Morgan would be the contact. So I'll mention to him that I mentioned it to you, and you'll be reaching out to him, or vice versa. Thank you. Okay, you're most welcome. Unless there's specific questions.
Pull into my garage. It's on a side of the garage, and I open the lift gate of my car because I can't. I can only lift it open when my garage door is open. And I'm bringing groceries in now that has something in. What if someone comes right now? What do I do? What are we supposed to do when someone like jumps in our garage and I'm out there trying to get my groceries? How am I supposed to act? Say take everything. Get to the ground. What are we supposed to do? I don't want to get killed or this, you know?
Well, that's the key. You don't want to get killed. You don't want to get hurt. And you heard your neighbors say it. I can replace a car. You can't replace a life. Is a car worth your life? It's aggravating, right? Your groceries, whatever. If you find yourself in this situation, I don't recommend you confront them. That's happened in other communities, and they were met by gunfire. We're seeing an escalation in the behavior. In the Public Safety Committee, I gave a scenario where our Rocky Hill detective was with the Hartford auto theft, shooting, stolen car, the whole 9 yards, 5 individuals. They did apprehend them. 2 out of 5 had guns. So I don't think it's worth the risk of confronting them. You know, back out of that situation as, you know, quickly as you can. Acquiesce.
I don't want them to follow me. Think I'm going to go on my telephone. Like, what's the safest way to behave so they leave me alone? You know what I mean?
In a way that it avoids a confrontation. That's probably the best answer I can give you. Because every case is going to be...
I'm not going to confront him.
Right. I know. You know, and the question was asked, well, can I get a gun? And should I get a gun? That's a personal choice, but somebody here said it really well. If that's the route you choose to take, be prepared. You may have to use it. And you know, is that something that you want? Yes, sir.
I'm a registered gun owner. I never even kept the gun or the bullets together. My magazine was in the basement. My gun was in my bedroom, in a closet. I don't want to rethink that. I don't want to have to pull the gun closer to me and bring up a magazine. So
I get it.
Because, you know, when we were taught, when we were getting our licenses, and we were taught that the minute you fire a firearm, you're in trouble. Not the perpetrator. You're in trouble. You're going to jail until they figure out what happened.
Well, not necessarily, but you're right. That could be a possible outcome.
Yeah. everything else. That's not a thought that was ever in my mind, nor do I want to go there.
I understand. Yes, ma'am?
Also, if I may add, sorry, run across the street.
That's okay.
Mayor Murata mentioned the fact that there's a committee, a subcommittee, a very small bipartisan subcommittee, and you mentioned some other people. Is there people that we can bother and irritate so that we can get something done? I mean, I love to do that, you know? Seriously, I'm dead serious. I mean, we have a lot of people here, okay? Are there people that we can contact, whether it be via email, via phone, via whatever?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would love that. And if I may pick Mr. Steve Harvey to be the liaison. So after the meeting, I can get your information, and then I can send him that information, and you can distribute that kindly. Thank you.
So, again, we understand, we're with you, and we're going to do everything not to let you down. Let's keep the dialogue going, and we can always talk afterwards, but I know the council probably has some comments, so I'm just going to be in the shadow back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Why don't we just go down the row? So, Councilor Thoreau, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. One of the things that the chief said about the squeaky wheel, the bill that ended up as PA 2033 originally was a larger bill that came out of a kind of a compromise bill out of judiciary, and that bill contained additional penalties. I believe it had the access to the records and a couple other things in there. The juvenile advocate lobby is very powerful, and they basically sliced the bill away and ended up pretty much with the adult person sponsoring these kids getting the penalties. One of the things that you can do, Councilor Emanuel and I filed testimony on the initial bill that came out to support the bill, and that's something that you can do. You can bill track, follow what's going on in the legislature, and maybe have your community leaders look into doing that. And everybody, rather than find one letter from the neighborhood, everybody files testimony. You call, and it explains how to do that. That's very effective because the strong juvenile lobby did that. So we have to counter and do that, and file as many things as you can individually. And that speaks, and if you have some recommendations of what you think, as the chief pointed out, put those in there. Put some things in their minds, and that the squeaky wheel does get the oil. So that's something that, and we do hear you, we do follow along, we do touch base with our legislative leaders and give them our suggestions, and again, track the bills and file testimony when we can. So I would recommend that you do that, and if you're not sure how to do that, you can either contact your state rep, your state senator, or you can contact me, and I can figure out how to do that and tell you. But that's very effective.
The legislative leaders seem to be more concerned with protecting juveniles than protecting law-abiding citizens.
Well, they get that powerful lobby, and they give them information. That's why that happens. You have to tell them that, no, we want that.
And not only tell them that, no, that's not what we want, but perhaps exercise our right to vote and vote this.
Well, that's absolutely that you can do too. But they need to.
Let me tell you, I'm only in favor, and I have significant empathy for juveniles who make one mistake or maybe make two mistakes. But I have absolutely zero empathy for the thug who's out to hurt me. And I think these state legislators need to understand who puts them in office, who can take them out of office. And I, for one, am very frustrated with the whole process, but neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, you're getting some legislators are voting one way, others the other way, but yes, they need to hear your voice.
I have a quick comment on that.
If I could just interrupt for a minute, if anyone from the public wants to be on the record, you may, but if you don't go to the microphone, your comments will not be recorded because the secretary won't be able to get them in her machine. But you can absolutely discuss it, but we're only going to hear the responses. So feel free, it's just that it won't be in the record.
This goes back to the New Britain case.
just like the guy who killed the guy in New Britain. I mean, if you look at the two pictures, it looks like him, okay? How could any legislator, okay, in their heart, without feeling like they committed the crime, allow a guy 13 arrests? And then it's like, oh, well, he's a poor little kid, blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. How do they have, I don't understand how they have a conscience that they can allow a law like that to go through. I got castigated on the forum, okay, by someone who said I didn't have empathy. If you look at the string, okay, I was as polite as could possibly be. And when I retorted that, I have empathy for my neighbors and my family, because if you attack my family, then the police will be coming to visit me. I know that, because I will go after you. But she was complaining to me about empathy. She's worried about, oh, how he's feeling or how he's feeling. What about the people like us, all of us that are here right now? Okay, we're talking about this, and the legislators passed these asinine laws, and this is why I don't want to be on camera, asinine laws that have no justification whatsoever. It's ridiculous. 13 arrests, 4 of which I think would have been felonies, and then he goes out and kills somebody, and now there's a family with 2 little kids because the legal system in this state sucks, and somebody like that can get away with that? It's ridiculous. That's why we're so pissed off.
We understand.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, we understand. We understand.
That's pretty clean for you. Can I jump in on that?
Of course.
I think I think a lot of us, including myself, weren't involved in politics, or we were just living our happy lives. But things are changing, as we've been saying. And I think, yeah, as Gabe is saying, voting people out, I think there's going to be a big difference and a big change in what the involvement of our citizens, saying enough's enough, very annoying with things that they shouldn't be, and it is time to speak up. So we are.
Thank you. Councilor Emanuel?
I don't have any additional comments.
Councilor Duff?
Sure, I just have a few. One of the things I just want to follow up on Councilor Thoreau's comment about when you file testimony, a lot of times people will put a lot of effort into writing this letter, but if you're looking at state legislators, they're looking at potentially getting thousands. So it can even be something as simple as, I support this bill, yes, in the subject line. I support, this bill, no. Make sure you support this, don't support this. Don't think that you have to spend a lot of time, crafting a beautiful thing, because that can be a stumbling block for some people. I don't have the time to do it. I'm not a good enough writer. When am I going to be able to do it? And the pasta starts boiling over and you forget about it. You can just make it right into the point, and that's what gets it across, because they have to read a lot of these. The shorter, the sweeter. One question I do have for the chief, and I'm not sure if other people may, so I don't think it has to be answered to this moment, but I didn't know if any communities or neighborhoods or organizations put up any sort of monetary reward for IMPO. I know we have the tip line, but something that doesn't just necessarily lead to an arrest, but potentially a conviction. Certainly there are people who are doing some of this for a profit incentive, and they say, there's no honor among thieves. It might be a way of getting a little bit more information out there. I don't know if that's something that the town could potentially contribute to or not, but I'd be interested to see if other communities took that approach of having a monetary reward as part of that. And then, I really understand the challenge that we have at the state level. There's 169 towns, I think, in Connecticut, all with a wide variety of needs. Getting that many folks to agree on a one-size-fits-all policy is really why we are here in this mess where we have a set of laws that don't necessarily meet the needs of our town. So while all that is getting sorted out, I think we really do need to think of how can the community pull together to defend ourselves. And some of that really is, it's a drag to lock your car. I do it. My car's not even that nice. I got a 2010 Civic. And, we make sure we lock it because it's almost in a way like getting vaccinated by me locking my car, making sure my neighbors are doing it. And then we're kind of trying to spread herd immunity in a way of making sure that our town's just not a soft target. This isn't where people live who are going to be marks. And it's a drag to have to do that, but that might be one step. And it might be other things like starting the community watch and making sure that people are there taking good information, not crossing any lines, but filling in where the police can be, because a lot of times the police are called only after something happens. And, we don't want those types of things to happen. So hopefully while we're focusing on the long-term solutions, we can also be pretty creative at what we're doing in town to help defend ourselves and our neighbors.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you feel townwide petitions signed by citizens are effective, or effective sent to the legislatures rather than, or in conjunction with the letters some of you are suggesting? I mean, I can guarantee you we can get a ton of signatures from people who are in this town who are incredibly afraid to go outside and feel the same way we do. I mean,
Chris, if I could speak to that, only because I've been to a number of these meetings, and my understanding is if you could have this type of testimony like Mimi and Chris had suggested, as opposed to the petition. Petitions are not personal, and they receive thousands of petitions about everything you could possibly imagine. So the petition will probably go over here, whereas Mr. Jones saying, I am so disgusted and fed up, I need your help. You know what, that goes into this pile, and then that starts to add up. But I will let you speak to that.
Yeah, I do have, I think that's correct. And I do have another thing to add is that, it can be challenging to track this stuff. Councilor Thoreau mentioned Bill Tracker. When there are these items that do come up, it's very important to follow them as best you could, or to have a point person to do that. And then you'll find out as a bill is working its way through committee, or if it's coming up for a vote, there's going to be a sense of who supports it and who doesn't. And that information should be out there. You might be able to get it from our representatives. You might be able to get it out from other ones. And you'll find out what legislators are on the fence, and you can make sure that you're, targeting them, because anybody who's involved at politics at any level knows that you have the people that you want to persuade, and some people you can't persuade. So you want to spend your time using it on the people where your voice can make the biggest difference.
Thank you, Councilor Prakash.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we had this discussion during the public safety, and it's worth mentioning some of the things which we discussed at public safety, and have been actually discussing this issue for a while at public safety. Actually, we started discussion, if I was looking at some of, I was Googling between the town council, when the town council started and the public safety ended, and I was trying to see, when we started this conversation, and to Chief's point, we go back all the way to April, May of last year, actually. We started having conversation about break-ins, and that's when Chief started putting together this bar chart, or a line chart, I should say, where we wanted to track that. So all that to say that we have been on this route long time. And with all due respect to Councilor Thoreau, I think we are past suggestions. I think we are on to action, actually. And I want to talk a little bit about what we have done in the last year, right? I think it's worth mentioning that, because that gives you a clear path to what works and what doesn't work, right? From a broader perspective, macro perspective, right? So as Mayor mentioned, Mayor has been working on, last year, on Lock It and Lose It, which is essentially to engage the residents of the town, sharing more responsibility, if you will, right? So we did that, right? And it was a lot of success, a big success in the sense that, the word got out, and people have been doing this, doing it more, with more frequency, at least, right? We also had this, higher presence, police presence, more patrol, right? And we just have 2 cops, which the Chief mentioned, in the budget, 2 additional cops in the budget. We did that. So now, in terms of local leadership, these are the things we have been doing, right? But local community action has its limits. We can't change laws. We can't amend laws, which is obvious, right? That's not our job to do. That's our state legislators' job to do, right? So the issues affecting, us here is it's a broader issue than just Rocky Hill, right? For good or bad. So earlier this year, and this is in context of something which was mentioned here about Glastonbury doing a kind of a forum on Thursday for all stakeholders, if they feel they are stakeholders in this. So earlier this year, the council passed a resolution, a Republican initiative, that passed 6-3 and was sent to the governor. Now, the resolution requested the state do more to address car thefts and juvenile crime. Now, why do I mention this again, right? The reason for that is, I think I would, in addition to everything that was suggested here, I will ask other towns to join those resolutions which were passed earlier in the year as well. And if I remember correctly, it was Cromwell which passed the resolution as well, Madam Mayor, I think. So if Glastonbury can do it, if other towns can do it, I think Weathersfield already did that. I think that will help as well. So every little bit helps, but I'm getting back to this idea of like, I think we are past suggestions, and I think it's time for our state leadership, including the governor and the state legislators, to like actually take ownership of this issue and do something about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Sure. Thanks again, everyone, for coming out. I hope you felt comfortable coming to the podium. And we know it's not easy. It's not something you do every day. And so we truly do appreciate that. You empower us. So thank you. Go back and look all the way back to May of last year. Pick any public safety meeting. We have been grappling with this on the local level, and we are looking to our state representative and our state senator for this district to stand behind us. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Greenspan.
Yeah. I would also like to just thank you all for coming out and speaking. I mean, I think it's important that we hear directly from residents of Rocky Hill. And I'll be the first to say, what you post on social media, we don't all read. I try to stay off social media because the comments out there are just brutal. You know, you say red and they're going to come back, it should have been blue. It doesn't matter what it is. So most of the time I choose not to follow what happens out there. So don't think that's a source. On our town website, we all have town emails. You can email us if you don't want to come to a public meeting. Reach out, let us know what's happening. This is a quality of life issue that we're talking about. It's also a threat to individual safety. It's not one neighborhood. I had a neighbor whose home was broken into, or garage was broken into, contents were stolen. They have 2 young kids. I live on a cul-de-sac. Their kids can't go out and play anymore. That's a quality of life issue.
You know exactly how we feel.
I don't like to come home at night and close my garage door. I used to close it at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Now I close it as soon as I come in. I feel like I'm locked in my own house. We lock the front door and the screen door. That's not the way we want to live in Rocky Hill. That's not how I've been here for 20 years. I know exactly what you're telling me. It's not one neighborhood. It's not the east side. It's not the west side. It's the state of Connecticut's having the problem. We're trying to address all of it that we can at the local level, but you're 100% right. To go through the state level is going to be a long process. And we've already seen it. It didn't happen this legislative session. There's no results. The chiefs told us that their hands are tied to how much they can do. They are doing a great job with the resources they have and the rules and laws that they have to follow. But we do need a change. We do need a quality of life issue change to go back to the way things were. So do reach out, whether it's to us, your state leaders, writing letters, emails. Inundate people with emails. I mean, it takes a couple of minutes. I'll tell you the number of emails I receive, you know, at work, not even here. I mean, the number of typos and anything else, so don't worry about how they go. No one's looking at your grammar. You know, we're not doing that. Just communicate it, and we'll do the best we can from this level. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Levine.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Again, echo my other sentiment. Thank you for coming to bring this to our attention again. As you know, this has been going on for a long time, probably longer than maybe some of you even realize it's been going on, and we've been talking about this for well over a year, you know, maybe pushing 2 years at this point. And I think it's safe to say that all of us here have either been directly affected individually, or we know have a family or a good friend that's been affected. I know I could say that. Obviously, Councilor Greenspan, I think we've walked down the line, we could probably find everybody has at least one incident, if not more, where someone's been affected they know. So it's very personal to us as well. I think you guys have the right ideas to go into the state legislature, as my fellow council folks have said. These types of meetings are happening not just in Rocky Hill, they're happening in all of these towns. As you know, there's going to be one in Glastonbury in a couple days. Other police departments are doing the same types of things we're doing. We're all trying to band together, share information, but what's the one common thing that's the problem? It's at the state level. That's the one commonality amongst all the towns having this problem, regardless of whatever creativity they do to put in to try to combat this. And they're all trying their hardest, whether it's us, Weathersfield, Cromwell, wherever. But it eventually gets to the point where they're limited with their chase, and if by chance they catch somebody, despite the limitation of the chase, they can only apprehend them and hold them for a certain amount of time. And even if that happens in time, then they don't get prosecuted. So at some point, the buck's got to stop, somewhere else, because their hands are tied at this point. So we appreciate the grassroots efforts that you guys are doing and will continue to do. And, we look forward to helping you any way we can.
Thank you. Councilor Malero?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to go into anything long here, but I do want to share some personal experiences myself. I've lived here for over 20 years, moved in 1999. I don't want to give Harvard a bad name, but I did grow up in Harvard. I've faced with just about everything and a few more things. I've had knives to my throat. I've gotten beat up. We had to move from one section of the town to another section of the town. So I can't find anyone more empathetic at this point. But one thing that I think that I've learned is you can't give up, and the more noise you make, things will happen, and help each other out, especially the neighbors. I've seen it with my own eyes, and eventually things start dwindling down. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. I hate to say that, but we can't give up, and everything that this council's doing, as much as we're trying to push up, and I think making multi-towns come together is how you make noise. All of you being here is making the right noise, but we have to keep on doing that and protecting ourselves. I hate to say it. I bought more alarms than I cared to buy. I bought more radios than I cared to buy. I bought more cameras than I cared to buy. But it helps and it deters. And the world's a weird place, right? It doesn't matter which town you're in, so we can't kid ourselves either. But now we are today. We have to fight. We have to. So keep voicing yourselves, and let's keep finding ways to keep pushing back. So we'll win. I know that. I've seen it in my own eyes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So at 8:10, we're going to move off public comment first, and it's a pandemic year, so I guess it's normal. But I will reiterate again what everyone here on the council feels is that we very much appreciate you coming out. We are equally frustrated, and we will continue to work hard to find solutions for you. So thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to appointments and resignations, unless anyone would like to take a break.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you.
Do we have to get the motion to?
Oh, sorry, you're correct. No.
Should we do a recess first? Do we need a recess for 5 minutes?
Does anyone want to recess for 5 minutes? No?
Keep going? Okay.
No,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Just need a motion to come back.
So motion
Okay.
motion to come back to normal rules
Very
Okay.
quick.
of proceedings.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. So, Counselor Duff, do you have any appointments or resignations?
We did receive a resignation as there was a conflict between the person's new role and the board she was serving on. We do not yet have a replacement for that spot.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Excuse me,
Sorry.
Councilor Duff, who's resigning or changing?
The email went to John.
I
wanna be
received an
precise.
email from Gina Marino resigning from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board because she is now the town's new Director of Senior Services as of today. And I was supposed to forward that to Chris because she just sent it to me, and then he'll forward it on because it was a Democratic appointment.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Sharmat.
Yes, we have one, not a resignation, but stepping down, our emergency management director. Maybe, John, you've appointed an acting director of emergency management?
Yes, the emergency management director, Rich Renstrom, stepped down from doing the position July 1st, and with the council passing in the budget for a full-time emergency management director. In the meantime, until that position's filled, Police Chief Custer will fill in as an interim emergency management director.
And the deputy director will continue on in his role as Deputy Director, according to Chief Custer.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes, A, budget workshop, May 27, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget workshop, May 27th, 2021.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay. Any opposed? And any abstentions?
Abstention.
One abstention. Thank you. Item B, Town Council Special Meeting, June 15th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the town council special meeting of June 15th, 2021.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstention.
Okay, one abstention. And the Town Council Meeting, June 21st, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the town council meeting minutes of June 21, 2021.
And I'll second as well.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to subcommittee reports, beginning with Finance.
The Finance Subcommittee did meet on the 15th of July. A couple of items that'll be on this evening's consent agenda. The Finance Committee unanimously approved accepting a brownfield grant from the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development in the amount of $837,830 for the property formerly known as Draska Farm, and its consent agenda item 6A for this evening. Also on the consent agenda is item 6D, which also was approved unanimously, which is the return of an additional $252,640 to the general fund for fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. These funds will be moved to the reserve for capital and non-recurring expenditures for the Board of Education, various school repairs and improvements. The third item on the consent agenda this evening, also approved unanimously, is the reward of sidewalk and construction repairs to Westpro of Weathersfield, Connecticut, in the amount of $54,120, and the cost for the sidewalks will be reimbursed by the state via LoCIP funds. LoCIP is Local Capital Improvement Program. The town went out to the rating agencies, and the town will continue to hold a AA+ stable rating on our long-term bonds, and an affirmed AA+ A+ rating on town's existing general obligation debt. We also received an SP1+ on our bonds, and that's very good news. The town did issue bans in the amount of $2,250,000 to BNY Mellon. We did receive a premium on those bans of $41,895, and those premiums will be used to, I believe, repay our debt, the principal on our debt. The town also issued general obligation bonds in the amount of $10,640,000. Janney Montgomery Scott was awarded or won the bid at 1.705768%. And the reason we go out so many decimals, we had 9 bidders in a very tight line of less than 1%, 1/10 of 1%. We did receive a bond premium of $1,035,500, and that will be used to smooth out the repayment of the debt over 20 years. So we'll have an equal payment or close to equal payment for all 20 years. We won't have spikes. The town also received all of our state aid for the municipalities for 2021, and that is the finance report. Our next meeting is August 12th.
Thank you. Government Ops.
Government Operations had their July 6th meeting canceled. We are next scheduled to meet on Monday, August 2nd.
Thank you. Public Safety.
Yes, Public Safety met earlier this evening, and I can report that, so we did have a healthy discussion earlier, so I'll try to keep it light on the police. Let's see here. 3,146 calls for service as of June. Criminal arrests, 16. Motor vehicle accidents, 40. Infractions issued 36, town tickets issued 145, motor vehicle thefts 3. The average is just over 3, and we are averaging the average of stolen cars. There is a notice going out to commercial entities, probably through town manager and the police chief, on the theft of catalytic converters on the rise. Apparently, these converters are filled with precious metals, and there's a market for them, aftermarket for them. So there's a notice going out that is suddenly, that's a new occurrence that's coming into play. The department only has 3 vacancies, 2 of which are the new positions. One of those 3 vacancies is about to be filled by an officer in process, 1 officer out on leave, otherwise we're at full staff. Fire department, 65 incidences to respond to for a year-to-date total of 322. Incidences for the fire department to be responding to is up a whopping 25% this year. We don't have a reason for that at this juncture, but it is up 25%. Training hours, 1,639 on track. The total staff is at 73. 31 calls to Route 91 for terrible automobile accidents in our area of Route 91, I believe north and south. We have an average of 16.5 members showing up to each call for service, which is great, and the department is doing well. It is collaborating with the Newington Department on recruitment program and has been getting back out in the community with several events planned, one in July, one August 3rd, night outs for recruitment and socialization with the community outreach. The fire department will also be promoting in the coming months a new drone program. They have a drone up and ready to go, and it will be available for use throughout the departments and throughout the different departments within the town. Ambulance, 305 calls, 1,966 total year-to-date, 78 members, 64 hours of training. We have a new ambulance chief, Brian Goodrich, and he was here for his first meeting, and an assistant chief, John, help me. It's Kim Ritchie is the assistant chief now. So new leadership at the ambulance. And emergency management, as we just mentioned, is being acting director, Police Chief Custer, with the deputy director remaining in place. The emergency management is working on a change and an upgrade to the website information available. And they are scheduling meetings once a month now, which in the height of all the different events that we had over the 2 years, sometimes was meeting 3 times a week. So now I'm glad to report that we're at 1 a month. The health district, Charles Brown came in and reported that we had at Rocky Hill total case count for COVID-19 is 1,814 cases, of which 123 resulted in fatalities. The last fatality for Rocky Hill has really fallen off, and so that was April 28th, as reported by the health district. Yes, the health district is concerned about the Delta variant, which is very contagious, but not presenting additional death or severity issues, but it is more contagious, apparently. So they're concerned about that, and it's traveling amongst the unvaccinated and the youth population in our district. Cases are on the rise, and they're up 14 new cases rising in the district already. Yes, the health district is not abandoning all programs. They just hired a program director for the opioid program. So they're trying to still meet all the other demands that the department has. The next meeting will be on August 16th at 5:30.
Thank you. Senior Liaison?
The last senior liaison meeting was canceled. Our next meeting is Monday, July 26th at 5 p.m., and it will be an in-person meeting.
Thank you. Land acquisition and farmland preservation.
No meeting. Our next meeting is July 27th at 6.
Liaison to the state representative and the state senator.
No report.
School liaison.
No meeting, no report, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Capital improvements committee.
No meeting. Right now, our next meeting is scheduled for July 27th.
Economic development subcommittee.
No meeting, no report.
Moving on to the consent agenda. Item A, financial assistance agreement, Town Farm Straska Brownfield Grant.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept the Brownfield Assistance Agreement for 374 New Britain Avenue, formerly the Straska property, in the amount of $837,830.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Can I ask a point of procedure question? John, don't we just
Yeah,
vote on the consent agenda?
You don't
as a
have to
whole?
go itemized.
Oh, wonderful.
You
Thank
can just
you.
do the consent agenda, and then if anyone wants to discuss it, they can request it to be pulled off.
Thank
But,
you. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was quick.
Much easier.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to old business. A, discussion, possible action, job description, emergency management director.
Old
Okay,
business.
we just-
Old business.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just briefly on the
Community Senior Center.
Just a quick update. The site work is ongoing. The sidewalks have been poured, and they're going to be maybe this Wednesday paving for the driveway out front by the old Main Street side, the parking lot, as well as the driveway in the back here. Air and water balancing started this week. Windows and doors are almost finalized. Floors and casework's being installed. The fitness equipment is going to be installed August 16th. New furniture is being delivered and planning to be installed August 9th, as well as existing furniture from the old community center will be brought over on the 16th. Based on the work being done and so on, looking to target a date of a so-called ribbon cutting ceremony for September 18th. That's a Saturday. This year, 9/11 falls on the Saturday before, so we sort of put it off a week. And related to the 9/11 ceremony, the fire department is planning something because it is the 20th anniversary of that event. And that's it.
That's that. Thank you.
Now you can go to the emergency management director.
Okay. Try it again. New business A, discussion, possible
Sorry,
act.
I just had one
sorry.
question, John. Will we be getting a tour before the ribbon cutting, when everything's in?
We could do that. Again, it is still a construction site, but if they'd like to do one, again, it would have to, it's best being after 3 o'clock. And if there's a date that the council would like to attend one, I can schedule it with no problem.
I was just thinking when most of the stuff is in, but before it opens, I think we've all worked hard on this, and it'd be nice to get a tour. I don't know how the rest of you
Absolutely,
feel.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
like
I have a couple hard hats in my car, so
Yes, I
I'll
have-
give you
I have
one.
mine.
So it's just a matter, as I said, they're still working on it, so it is still somewhat a construction site going on. What time period you want to say? Again, they're planning to start moving equipment and furniture in
I'm
middle
thinking
of
like early
August.
September when most of the stuff is in. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
defer to your discretion,
Right
but I would
before.
think right before.
Similar to what we did with Mosier, I would assume.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now?
Okay.
New business A, discussion, possible action, job description, emergency management director.
Well,
you wanna
there's a
just-
job description in your packet
Yep.
for this position created by Dana. It was discussed at Public Safety earlier tonight, as well as on the table is a example of what area towns are doing as far as emergency management director that was prepared by the fire chief a few weeks ago.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the job description and start the search for an emergency management director as drafted by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I missed in reviewing the document here, it looks like we're looking at, I'm not sure if this was discussed or read in the record of public safety, but it looks like we've got a list of corresponding towns and who the parent department of the emergency director reports into for each and who has that role. And it looks like it's kind of a mix of primarily fire marshal, fire chief, fire inspector. Only appears Glastonbury has maybe a full-time EMD. And I do understand that we approved this position in the budget, and I don't want to rehash that conversation, but I do think we should recognize that just because we have the position doesn't necessarily mean that we have to fill it in this way. We're looking at someone who's professional with an average annual salary of up to $80,000. That is also going to include benefits, retirement, annual salary increases most likely. There are supervisory roles, duties as part of the job description, and I think as we try to be as frugal and efficient as possible, should consider if we are not kind of overbuilding what we have for town staff. This could be the beginning of a new department, and the time to, I guess, tighten our belts is probably before we start hiring and building folks out. I 100% agree that we need to have an EMD and someone who's assigned that tasks and functions in an emergency. We've gotten by through some pretty rocky roads the last year and a half without a full-time person. As certainly someone hired and funded through the budget in this way, so it's something to potentially consider. And I don't know if something that public safety is looking at, if we really need someone in the full-time role who is basically getting paid as a department head, when it looks like a lot of the other towns have been getting by without that.
Just for your benefit, since you weren't at public safety, if you go back and watch the tape, the chief just cautioned us that this is a very old document, so not to rely on it exactly. But
Well, he said
most of
within-
these people
within
are
6 months.
most of these people are rooted. The person the candidate that's going to want this job and have this role is going to be rooted in public safety already. Is the takeaway that I have for it. But whether or not it's somebody that's right now, so we're already doing this, currently without. In any event, I'm not going to rehash that. I'm just caution you to maybe chat with the chief about it.
Sure, yeah, that'd be good to look at, because one of the things that I would be interested in, and again, maybe something that come up in public safety, is of these towns that would be similar to us, how many have a full-time person in this role? I think that'd be something to consider before we get, too far down the road.
Anyone else wish to comment?
I have a couple of comments,
Okay.
if I may. I went back to the meeting we had with Deputy Commissioner Rush Kittle on April 19th. And if you haven't had a chance, go to the Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security's website and just look at what her resume is. I mean, she's the real deal. She really fits the description. She's not only served in the state police, served in the military, is now the Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. So I take a lot of what she says as, gospel, so to speak. The first thing that she commented, and I'll paraphrase it, is that she personally believes that we need a full-time person in the position in Rocky Hill. And secondly, that not only is she saying that as a deputy commissioner, but also as a resident of Rocky Hill, where she and her family reside. So I think that says a lot. The other thing that was stated by Regional Coordinator Turley at that meeting is that emergency management directors will be working with all departments on everything from hazard mitigation, public works projects, and EMS. He also mentioned that one thing he has found is that towns that use their fire chief and police chief to fill these roles have an issue when an incident takes place because that police chief or fire chief doesn't have time to be the emergency management director at the same time as the incident commander, and I'm paraphrasing it. He also said there's certainly more than enough work for someone to do this full-time, but of course it's up to the community. I think those are important things to think about as we go through this discussion process. The last piece of it that I kind of highlighted for myself is Deputy Commissioner Rush Kittle noted that shortly before that meeting there was an incident in Branford involving a shooting. The town of Branford did have a full-time emergency management director, and they had a member or a part of the CERT team. Because of that, they were able to get additional resources to the town of Branford, and a regional liaison, a mobile command unit, a communications vehicle, and then maybe some other items. Like I said, I don't want to read it word for word. I don't want to see Rocky Hill in a position where we have an event, whether it be a minor event or a mass casualty event, that we are not prepared to handle it. I have also looked a little bit about the position of what emergency management director does, and some of the things I found in my research is the word emergency is somewhat misleading. So when we have a parade in town and certain roads are closed, the emergency management director provides a written document to what roads would be used as an alternative. If we're using, I believe it's Region 5 is our our task force, our fire department task force. If we're being filled by another town, they would know what roads are open, what frequency they're using. All those things are planned in advance. So it's helping with positive events as well as the worst events we could happen. So I think it's really important that we look at it that way and not just, well, we got through COVID and everything's going to get better, because we don't know what's coming down the road. And then there's the day-to-day operational piece. And I think we need to look at that.
Thank you.
Quick thing I will say, Chris, in spirit, I agree with your thoughts on this. Like, my instinct is also not to increase headcount. Like, I really buy that principle. Like, unless it's like really necessary and, urgent, or not even urgent so much as, reasonable and necessary, right? On this one, like, I do want to say that in addition to, I cannot top like whatever Councilor Greenspan said, because I think you made a very good case for it. One thing I will add to it is, I think if you look at what's going on with the weather events over the last, 5 years, you can go back probably, those are getting more extreme. Like, we have more of these cold snaps, like, rain, thunderstorm every day, like, power outages. I think, and I'm going to refer to something which Councilor Levine said, like during the budget, right, which was like $7 per year for a 300,000 market value house. I think we can afford that for some kind of insurance against
Loss of life.
Loss of life. Hopefully not, but extreme, events, casualties, loss of life, et cetera, et cetera. So I do want to say I notionally support what you're saying. I just think this might be an exception to that principle, probably. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a comment, too.
Okay.
I'm just going back to what it is specifically on the agenda, and it's the job description. I support what Dana did, and I'll certainly support the motion to approve the job description, but I totally agree with what Councilor Duff had said. I'm just, even though there was a PowerPoint, Alan, about, from the assistant commissioner, I'm looking at some of these larger towns that they have the fire chief as their EMD, and I haven't heard in 30 years that we have ever had a situation where whoever's sitting in the EMD position here has been overwhelmed, or their current position where they needed someone full-time. I'm not going to rehash what we discussed during the budget, but I just wanted to make it clear that I would support the job description.
All right, then I will entertain a motion.
They've already
Oh, we did it?
The motion's
Oh.
there. Gotta vote it.
Yep, okay, then I will entertain a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good. Great. Discussion, possible action, recycling coordinator consultant. So,
That's yours.
that's mine. Finding my notes. I want to give you just a little bit of history very quickly, because I know it's late, but remember when we first got into office and Miro said, okay, we want you to sign this agreement, where tipping fees are going way up, and ultimately they were going to close, and we said, no, we're not going to get caught up for a myriad of reasons in that, right? So, they are still contractually obligated to provide services, but, what that looks like is essentially hauling our trash, across many states and burying it in landfills, which I don't think any of us necessarily want. And so at that time, I had reached out to COST, you may recall, and CCM and said, hey, we're one of 55 towns that belongs to Mira. What are we doing? We need a little help. What are other towns doing? And around that time, and I want to say, John, it was when the morning of the day the governor shut the state down because of COVID, the town manager and I, and maybe a dozen people met at the commissioner's office to kind of say, hey, what's going on? What are your plans at the state level, if any? And after that, the commissioner had asked people to sign a memorandum of understanding if they were actually willing to commit their time, which I was, to looking at resources and ideas from other states and possible options for trash recycling and picking up things like organics and food scraps. And so from there, the Connecticut Coalition of Sustainable Materials Management was created. Councilor Thoreau and I served on the unit-based pricing subcommittee, I guess you would call it. And months later, DEEP put together a menu of options to help towns reduce the amount of waste that they're putting into their stream, to decrease costs, and to increase sustainable efforts. And also a number of very impactful laws were passed as a result of that coalition, one of which was the bottle bill, which is important to this discussion. But what Councilor Thoreau and I have learned is that this is such a huge topic, and there's so much information. It's a lot to process. We don't have a department, and I don't think we could ever put this demand on any one particular person to sort of figure out what our best practices. So I would like to make a recommendation to the council that we consider hiring a part-time, 10-hour per week recycling coordinator, consultant, not an employee, to navigate and to make recommendations, and most importantly, to engage and educate not only the council but the public, and also to apply for funding. One of the wonderful things that has happened as a result of some advocacy is that the commissioner of DEEP approached state legislature and asked for some money because we had sort of, the town manager and I had sort of preliminarily mapped out what type of money would we need in our budget to even contemplate coming to the council and going to the public with various options that CCSMM was looking at. And it was just beyond our reach to even implement pilot programs. It would be too expensive. But the commissioner brought up those things to the state legislature and was able to get $5 million in grant money. And that money is specifically for small towns to explore, to learn about different options when it comes to waste management, and hire recycling coordinators, and so on and so forth. So I'm thinking at a minimum, perhaps the council would be able to apply for grant funding for this position, or be able to use the ARP money for this position. And the great thing, going back to the bottle bill, is that we will be getting about $20,000 per year. I want to say it's maybe next year or the year after, because there is now this surcharge on the nip bottles.
It's the nip
The NIPS
deposit
Mhm.
that's getting sent directly, and one of the 5 options that you can spend that money on is recycling coordinator.
So it fits right in there. And so what I'm thinking is if we have an opportunity to explore things without any cost to the taxpayers, then we ought to be considering doing that, especially because we are a mirror town. And I think if we had someone who is really experienced with deep and recycling and trash and who has served as a consultant who could help us navigate that, it would be really important. And I think time is of the essence only because there is this new grant funding out there, and the state is very keen on acquiring partners, particularly from the mirror towns.
Madam Mayor, I want to just support that in the sense that I had just the luck of the draw that I ran into a recycling trash consultant who, he said most towns are now banding together and doing this. So he's out of Heber and Marlboro and does this exact same thing for a group of towns out that way. And he's, I relate to him I remember looking up and down the council when Mira threw the contract down and said, get it signed by next, and we all called for a presentation. Actually, John, you made the initial contract offer, and we were shocked. And he said, no, that's par for the course with Mira, the way they had been operating over the years. So I think this makes a lot of sense to get some outside perspective, especially when you've financed the position. And other towns are doing this in small groups with other consultants.
And it is something that I have, just to put on the table, that I've spoken to some other communities with, and perhaps we can coordinate. But it looks like, at most we would need in Rocky Hill someone, if they're experienced, who could give us 10 hours.
And I think something else important too, that educating ourselves first of all, and then educating the citizens of the town is huge, because there's so much misinformation, and I think that this is something that coordinator I think would be helpful in that, because they've been there before. And again, at this point, especially if we can get the grant, it's not going to cost us anything initially, certainly, and hopefully going forward with the NIPS money. So because we have to do something, because we're going to be paying a lot more money to haul our trash out of state. So we have to do something. We have to be proactive.
Yeah, I think this is a really a positive idea. I think on the education side, it would be good to take a person a while probably to come up with stuff, but it'd be good to have that as public facing as possible on the town site or some other potential avenues. I don't know, doing a program at the library or something like that. The other thing that I would be interested in seeing that if this person would be interested in engaging that type of project is looking at what we can do on the municipal side, and also how can we engage our business community. A lot of recycling is very consumer focused, but if I bring back, I guess you can't even pay 10 cents anymore to get the plastic bag. But if you have if I throw out my takeout containers, that's some level of trash that either can or can't be recycled. But on the corporate footprint is much larger, and it's a lot bigger than just what we as individual citizens can do. So if there's a way that they could engage with our business community as well, maybe save them a couple dollars, while also, while it might not come out of the municipal budget, it's still part of our overall trash recyclable footprint. That would be something that would be interesting to pursue as well. If there are those types of programs, maybe it makes us even that much more of a green business friendly type community. So hopefully that'll be part of the types of things that this person can engage on. I think it's certainly worth exploring, especially because we can reallocate the funds from the bottle bill. So that's
You mentioned
a very
that
positive idea.
it'll help with sustainable CT.
Oh, I don't know if I did, but yeah, it would help our sustainable CT efforts, because there's so much, we could be doing on that end, and also getting grant matching grant funds. No, that's that.
Make a motion, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
So I'd like to make a motion to, I guess, engage the consultant as your per your recommendation.
Is that reasonable?
Trash recycling consultant.
You interested in pursuing a consultant
Interested in pursuing a recycling trash consultant.
and bring it back to, a proposal back to the town council in the near future?
Yes.
What he said.
What he said.
Second.
Near is, future is the key thing.
Okay. Well, we've had our discussion. I won't call for discussion again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. Okay. Mayor's report. We had a really exciting visit from the Lieutenant Governor and DEC Deputy Commissioner today, who came to talk about our brownfield remediation grant that we were rewarded for Straska Farm. You know, that's a big deal because combined with our steep grant, we're getting close to $1 million, which is a big deal for our taxpayers because, you know, after spending $7.2 million on the farm, we would never want to impose such a cost on them for the cleanup and remediation. So we are very thankful to the governor and the lieutenant governor and obviously the commissioner of DECD for investing in our community. Trying to make my report short. We talked about trash and recycling. And that, okay. Wednesday is our second farmers market of the season from 4 to 7 p.m. at Ferry Park. And it's an exciting one because we actually have Blue Earth Composting there, who will talk about composting initiatives. And they do offer a private curbside pickup of food scraps and organics for anyone who might be interested or just interested in learning how to compost. And then finally, Councilor Duff will be happy that we can do our call to serve notice about our Commission on Inclusion and Innovation. And so I just want to tell everyone that the Town of Rocky Hills Council is issuing a call to serve on the Commission of Inclusion and Innovation, which has a unique purpose of proactively building intergroup community relationships through the efforts of town residents and business owners. And the Town Council has charged the Commission with a few things, and that is promoting productive dialogues amongst the diverse facets of our community, facilitating community-wide education programs that build awareness, basing goals and priorities on community input, data, analytics, and facts, modeling best practices and navigating difficult conversations. And so we invite the public to review the Commission's implementing ordinance, Town Code Chapter 24 Ordinance Number 288-21, which describes the purposes and duties of the Commission. And so in terms of what's next and our next steps and what you at home can do, first, you can respond to the call to serve. And so play a part in the Commission's community-wide education programs, join the Commission subcommittees, respond to community surveys, or participate in Commission-sponsored events in the future. And then finally, the second thing that you can do is apply for Commission membership. So beginning Tuesday, July 20th, you can pick up an application for Commission membership at Town Hall, or you can download and print an application by visiting the Town of Rocky Hills website. Or for instructions on how to apply, please see page 1 of the membership application, and these are due no later than Monday, September 20th, 2021. And I do believe that we have a little dedicated website page now. So if you go onto that website, onto our website, you will see news and the call to serve for our new commission. I want to thank the council for its work, and certainly Councilor Duff for all of his help and service and putting that commission together.
Madam Mayor, just a question. The farmer's market Wednesday at Ferry Park, do you know if an alternative site's been looked at? as the Connecticut River's reaching crest level.
On the ferry.
We sink or swim at the ferry
That's our
park.
new logo.
just,
Rocky Hill, sink or swim.
It's actually it's a fisher's market.
The Fisher's Market, bring your own pole, is that it?
Oh my God, it's late. Okay.
I think LL Bean's coming down to sell some boots. They gotta move.
Okay, I do not know.
Okay.
But I can inquire. Maybe Rita will text us if she's watching.
She's probably ready to kill me right about now.
Okay, that concludes my report. Moving to the town manager's report.
Okay, so some staffing updates, as mentioned earlier, the town hired, and she started today, Gina Marino, to be the Director of Senior Services for the Community Center and so on. She comes from West Hartford, where she's been doing this function there for approximately 30 years, and she also is a Rocky Hill resident. So she started today, and we welcome her and look forward to some of her ideas associated with the senior center going forward. We're also in the process of trying to fill the Community Development Services and Public Works position, which used to be held by Jim Salmi, who retired. We have been out searching for that, and it's still, I think we advertised it twice, and we're still seeking to fill that position. Tonight, with the approval of the Emergency Management Director position, job description will advertise for that position this week, and also we're going to start advertising for a Finance Director this week to take over the full responsibilities of the Finance Director's job. And hopefully the goal is to have these positions filled sometime by September of this year. If you take a walk on the new streetscapes along Silas Dean and you look at the light poles, you notice there's a couple brackets that you can hang banners from. So Ray was contacted by the company that developed the economic development film that's on the town's website, saying that they also do banners. And it would be no cost to the town. I guess they would pursue businesses in town that would like to hang their organization banner from one of our streetlights. So we're going to think of doing about 25 of the banners. And again, it's no cost to the town. They'll do the installation as well as the maintenance of those banners. And everybody knows what's going on Thursday night at 6:30, so I don't have to repeat that. And the last thing, just from the Parks Department, there'll be a summer concert series continuance tomorrow, the 20th, Last Licks, and again on the 27th, LA Backstage Pass. And on August 3rd, Eagles Tribute Band, which is also tied in to the Police National Night Out. All those concerts starts at 6:30. And the summer drive-in movies are on Friday nights. On July 23rd is Ferris Bueller Day Off, excuse me. And Black Panther on August 6th. And the last thing I'd like to do is recognize one of the lifeguards at the town's Elmridge Pool. Her name is Angelica Petak. She was working on Sunday as a lifeguard and noticed during the adult swim that one of the swimmers looked in distress. And by her noticing that and jumping in the pool, saved that person from drowning. So I'd like to congratulate her on a great job for noticing that, as well as jumping in the pool and saving that person. Again, it was Angelica Petak. And that's it.
John, any relation to?
I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
I'd say yes, but if I was betting, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving to the next item, Executive Session A, Executive Session with the Town Manager and Human Resources and Legal Compliance Director to discuss records, reports, and statements related to strategy and negotiations with respect to collective bargaining.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of discussing executive session with the Town Manager and Human Resources and Legal Compliance Director to discuss records, reports, and statements related to the strategy and negotiations with respect to collective bargaining.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.